Thank you for your time. I will try my best not to bore you. I know when everyone thinks agriculture, the first thing you think is, oh my God, this is going to be really slow and boring. So I'll try and keep this as short and engaging as possible. I thought this was something cool to start with. Let's just go through this for a second and let it sink in. You know, as I'm in my 40s, and we've seen a bunch of these different trends come and go. There was Bitcoin, and then there was blockchain, and then everyone's quitting their jobs and doing something related to blockchain. And I remember back in the year 2000, there was the Y2K bug, and apparently the world was supposed to shut down, and everyone gets carried away with these things. And I think that's kind of happening with AI as well. It's true, AI is going to transform the way we live our lives and how the world functions, but really there's a lot of mystique around AI, and I'd like to kind of demystify some of that in terms of what AI does in agriculture, and maybe even showcase a couple of cool examples of what's happening in Pakistan. Ji, please. So, who am I? My name's Muzaffar Mangi. I've spent about 22 years in advertising. I come from a farming background, and really I decided to, burn all bridges and atone myself for my advertising career and maybe try and do some good in the world. I'm also the co-founder of Farmdar. So what is Farmdar? Farmdar is an agri-tech startup. We use AI and satellite imagery to create crop data across vast areas. We've covered about 350 million acres so far with a B2B play, and we'll delve a little more into it. But when we say data, data that helps businesses make better decisions in terms of how much is available, how much crop is available, where it is, what condition it's in, how to price it, how to procure it, how it impacts your supply chain and logistics. And we'll talk a little more about that as well. So artificial and artificial intelligence in agriculture these aren't exactly words you expect to see put together in the same sentence. I mean, we've had some excellent talks on the role of AI and hospitality. I mean, that makes logical sense. There's people involved, and there's predictive behavior involved. But how exactly does AI play into agriculture? So let's look at a couple of the best examples in the world. First, why? Why is it inevitable? So people may not be very aware of this, or maybe not realize the magnitude of this situation, but in 30 years' time, global populations are going to cross 10 billion people, and we don't have enough food to feed Earth's population, and 30 years is not that far out. So when, say, someone like you, or you are in your late 40s or early 50s, we do have an impending global crisis. और ये अगर की बात नहीं है, ये for a fact ये चीज़ हो रही है. And one says, okay, let's just grow more food. That should solve the problem because zameen to bahut sari hai. But the problem with that is that to grow 60 to 100% more food to feed the global population in 30 years, you need 8 times the land mass of Pakistan. Another myth that should be dispelled right now, that when people think agriculture, they get this image of blue skies and green fields and haryali and organic and natural. Well, that's true, but agriculture is also quite devastating for the environment. Southeast Asia's carbon footprint, 26% of it is attributed to agricultural activity. So when we say let's just grow more food on 8 times the land mass of Pakistan, that's devastating for climate change. And just growing more on more land is just not an option. That's not a way forward. The solution is to grow better and to grow more sustainably on the amount of land that we do have. And AI really acts as a means of creating efficiency in the way we grow food. So it looks like AI can save the world, but nothing comes without a catch. And is there a catch? Of course there is. There's a resistance to traditional methods versus technology. So if you look at the way traditional farming has been done, you had an ox pulling like some kind of rudimentary device through the ground to till the ground, and that's been happening for a couple of thousand years. And then we've got these diesel-powered tractors, and they're kind of doing the same thing. So the process is the same, just the tools have changed. So now when you go to a farming community and you ask them that, listen, whatever you've known for the last couple of thousand years, well, it's not quite correct and you need to stop doing that, it's really hard to fathom. And even in Pakistan, we're one of the most over-fertilized countries in the world. We're devastating our soil. Some UN figures say that we have as few as 80 crop cycles left. That means our soil is useless after 80 crop cycles. So when you go to someone and say that, you know, the very same fertilizer you're applying that's supposed to increase your yield, well, that's not very good. It's hard to process, and so there's a resistance over there. Another form of resistance is many roles become obsolete. So right now, data gathering is done by thousands of people who have been in the industry from seeds, pesticide, sugarcane, corporate farming, and these thousands of people, just on something as basic as data gathering, they become obsolete. So there is a natural resistance. It's kind of like when the first printing press came along, it was industrial revolution, you know, was good, but it also made millions of people completely obsolete. So there is that natural resistance happening. A third problem is, again, I'll take an example of the gentleman, you know, speaking about hospitality earlier on. It takes anywhere between 3 minutes to 10 minutes to experience whatever AI has to offer in the domain of hospitality, or you know, in edtech, or say, for example, e-commerce. Even, you know, higher ticket items. If you want to buy a new phone and Samsung says, all right, this new phone is foldable, it's amazing. What's the problem? You go buy the phone and either you like it or you don't. And if you don't, well, you go ahead and sell it to someone for like 10, 20,000 rupees less. And that's the end of that. But for agriculture to actually try what agri-tech is prescribing requires an entire crop cycle. So not only are you putting people out of business, not only are you saying that a lot of what you know is completely wrong, you're also saying that give me your money and it's going to be 1 year before you find out whether this works or not. So there is a natural resistance over there as well. Internet coverage, I don't know how many people from a telco background over here, we can have a chat about this outside and be civil about it. There is no internet coverage in Pakistan. It's a fact. And I would like any of you, you know, not from Lahore, to drive between two cities. You'll see a 4G or 3G. Try browsing on Instagram. Let's see what happens. There's no internet coverage. ना होने के बराबर है इसको. इस पे हम खुश ना हो कि हमने पाकिस्तान में जी इतने टावर खड़े कर दिए. And until there are motivations for proper 3G or 4G internet coverage, you know, in rural areas, it's not going to work. So very quickly, if we can just move to a couple of examples, just skip to the. All right. So what do we mean by AI and tech? Well. Robotics, you've, I'm sure, seen the picture of this drone flying around and spraying. But the role of AI is to tell the drone exactly which crop needs which amount of pesticide based on certain data that's been curated and processed by AI algorithms. You have Canadian companies that now in vertical farms, they have robotics to pick out weeds very selectively before they become a problem. Next slide. Biotech, for example. So seeds are a major problem. The same seeds which may have worked for a particular crop in Pakistan, those seeds aren't working anymore because they become resistant to pesticides. There are new diseases coming up, so the seed has no you know, reaction to survive to that. They're not able to fight off climate change or changes in weather. So AI algorithms, CRISPR technology, they help re-engineer the seeds to become more climate resilient. There's technology being used in parts of the world where the seed actually gives off a signal that can be detected by tractors and satellites when the seed is under stress. So it allows you to react weeks in advance before disease occurs. And this is one of the very cool ways where you can end up getting more out of the land. I do want to point out here that 30% of all food that's grown across the planet is wasted. So अगर आपको किसी मंडी में 100 किलो टमाटर दिख रहा है तो उसके साथ 30 किलो फेंक दिया गया था. So just reducing wastage creates a huge impact in food sustainability. Climate tech, this is happening in Pakistan. Some very cool work is going on. We're doing this as well. You can measure the land temperature of 2 individual fields. You can measure the evapotranspiration rate, and you can come up with very, very accurate irrigation scheduling. So this entire method right now, कि मुझे पानी खुल गया और पूरी ज़मीनों को पानी दे दिया, that's wasteful, that actually impedes yield, and that's really not a sustainable way of going about it. So now there is technology right here in Pakistan, homemade, that tells you this part of your land needs watering, this doesn't, this is the impact it's going to have on your ultimate yields. And again, this is backed by raw data that comes from satellite imagery, but it's AI algorithms that piece it all together. Precision ag is generally a very wide term, so this would refer to, say, knowing your overall plant health. So 1 acre would be about maybe 8 times the size of this auditorium. That's how big 1 acre of land is. And for you to know what's happening in that part, wahan ki fasal kya kamzor hai nahi hai, is just really not possible to eyeball it all. And now when you're talking about 10 acres or 100 acres or 1,000 acres, it's virtually impossible. So you have AI-backed algorithms, indexes, which help you identify plant health. What you're looking at uses 5 years worth of satellite imagery, and it tells you historically what your productivity zones are. So high productivity means high nutrient requirement, low productivity means low nutrient requirement. But what it also tells you is just putting more fertilizer in the low productivity areas is not going to solve any major problems. It's just burning through cash. So there is an underlying problem that needs to be addressed. It could be a soil issue, it could be a land leveling issue, soil organic matter issue, but AI is very clearly telling you, and this takes about 4 seconds to produce. So if any of you have a farm and you want to see a demo about it, if you'll give us a LinkedIn shout out, we'll do this for you for free. Any other cool stuff coming from Pakistan? So now here's where the shameless promotion happens. I'm just going to whiz through this, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to friend them. So what we are doing is creating AI-based crop data across very, very large areas, and I'll tell you what the utility of that is. So what you're looking at is a small patch of Pakistan. The numbers and figures over there we've had to redact because you have to pay to see this, but the image should suffice for now. And what this is basically telling you is across 29 million acres in Pakistan, in spring 2023, how much maize was sown, when it was sown, how much maize was there in all, right down to the last location, which is fantastic. So if you're a seed importer, seed producer, if you're a pesticide company and you have a lot of revenue coming from a particular product that caters to the maize industry, you buy this data. If you're a starch company like, say, the Rafan Ingredients of the world, you want to know, okay, is saal starch mein mujhe kitna milega, aapko ye dekh ke pata lag jata hai. Similarly, what we've done just recently, next slide, is wheat detection from December 2023 across 90 million acres in Pakistan. So the same use cases, the government would be interested, everyone wants to corroborate the data, traders want to buy this information. Depending on the satellite imagery used, worst case scenario, this is 85% accurate. Best case scenario, it's about 95, 96% accurate. But the really cool part is when you take your maize imagery and you take your wheat imagery, and next slide, AI actually gives you an insight into the future. So we're sitting here in January and we have a very, very clear idea of exactly how much maize to expect in 2024. Because when you overlap the maize grown in spring 23 and the wheat grown in December 23, the guy growing wheat right now is not going to be growing maize in spring 2024. So this information becomes invaluable, and again, I'll zoom through the use cases. So from a logistics perspective, the amount of material you've got lying around, it costs money to take that dead inventory, pay for warehouses, bring it back, the climate impact of those trucks and planes. It allows you to procure intelligently. It allows you to plan your seeds intelligently, your pesticides intelligently. And really this data is what allows businesses to bring efficiency in the way they operate. This guy's showing me a sign saying the time's over, so I'm going to wrap this up. It allows you to kind of optimize your business, manage your pricing, your procurement more intelligently, and there's a laundry list of climate impact that each of those stages has. Is there anything left? This is what we're doing in Brazil. We can talk about it later on, but I think we should maybe talk about, do some Q&A right now if anyone's interested. So we're open to questions. Ji.
Is there any usefulness of using a hybrid approach or any utility of using drones there?
Good question. So the question he's asked is about satellite imagery versus drones. We almost exclusively use satellite imagery. There's a number of reasons for that. It gives you access to very, very large areas. So if you want to do a drone across 39 million acres or like 90 million acres, it's not happening. Drone की अपनी limitations हैं. You need a drone operator. The flight time of some of the best drones in the world is like 45 to 50 minutes. A drone doesn't give you a single image. It takes thousands of images. Then you stitch them together. There's a data loss. So the use case for large scales is definitely not drones. However, if you are an individual farmer or if you're a corporate farmer, you've got say about like 40, 50 acres, it makes sense to invest in maybe 8 or 9 good drones, fly them around. You can get extremely high resolution imagery because the drone is low flying. That kind of resolution in satellite imagery is super expensive. So depends on the use case, but for what we're gunning for across large scale in multiple countries, 300, 400 million acres, Allah ने चाहा इस साल हमारा 1000 million acre cross करने की नियत तो है. तो वो ड्रोन से नहीं होगा, वो सिर्फ सैटेलाइट से होगा.
Got it, thanks.
Any other questions? जी. Thank you.
Our country's reliance on agriculture extension and extension workers की अक्सर बात होती है. What do you think is the potential of generative AI to provide agriculture extensionary services to most of our, and help our local government departments and the other departments in providing extension services?
So when Farmdar started off, we all come from farming backgrounds. I'm Sindhi. My dada used to be like in the government. तो हर किसी का वो सरकारी connect होता है. तो when we started off, पहली हमारी चीज़ है कि चलिए हुकूमत को जाके दिखाएंगे और हुकूमत बोलेगी वाह जी वाह आपने बड़ा सिक्सर मार दिया. And truth be told, a very positive response, you know. But it's easier said than done. So you've got say someone like Umar Saif, very progressive, wanting to do things, and he's surrounded himself by this ring of very progressive, intelligent people wanting to make a difference. लेकिन जो आपके departments में इदारों में कुछ 15 से 20 हज़ार लोग हैं जो तनख्वाह ले रहे हैं, वो डेटा कलेक्शन की चाय पीते हुए डेटा कलेक्शन कर रहे हैं, वो अब डिपेंड करते फार्मर ने उसको मुर्गी खिलाई है या उसको चना खिलाया है, उसके बेसिस पे उसकी फसल रिकॉर्ड हो रही है. फैक्ट्स. So really, I mean, this is inevitable. The government will have no choice but to either do this themselves or come to third-party providers like us. So it's invaluable. We are an agri-economy, and if you listen to what the secret quarters of the government are saying, the penny has dropped. Agriculture is what's going to save our economy. There is no other way out. Telenor big gaya. Right? So यही एक untapped resource है और उनको इधर आना पड़ेगा. But देखिए इन चीज़ों में traditional resistance आपको बहुत ज़्यादा मिलेगी. Data like this scares people. It terrifies people. Every single customer we have, half of them really are happy that we've come along, and the other half can't wait to find me in an empty street at night. Because obviously एक obsolescence तो create हो रही होती है. तो ये scenario है, but response is good and it is valuable.